and I have given all the proofs of who is involved with Diddy. I have presented the videotape of Diddy's parties as evidence. Now no one can save Diddy and the other celebs. Jay-Z, Beyonce, all of them were Diddy's handlers. After watching the rest of the documentary, you'll understand everything.
Best comment gets pinned, but this one goes way deeper than the comments, because in hip-hop, most beef fades with time. Diss tracks cool off, enemies shake hands behind closed doors. But every once in a generation, there's a rivalry that doesn't die. It waits, it studies, it grows teeth. And when it finally resurfaces, it doesn't sound like music. It sounds like consequences. And if there's one person who understands how to weaponize time itself, it's Curtis 50 Cent Jackson. Now let's be clear from the start. This story includes public allegations, lawsuits, and media reports, not courtroom verdicts. But culturally, the impact is undeniable, because once the public starts questioning a powerful figure, the fall doesn't come from one hit. It comes from 1,000 voices deciding they're done protecting the image. For decades, Sean Diddy Combs stood as one of the most untouchable moguls in entertainment. Bad Boy Records, Biggie Smalls, the shiny suits, the champagne lifestyle, the image of a man who survived every era and always landed on his feet. From MTV dominance to billion-dollar brand deals, Diddy wasn't just successful, he was symbolic. He represented industry power. And 50 Cent, he represented something completely different. Survival. Shot 9 times and lived. Blacklisted and came back stronger. Turned pain into profit. Turned beef into branding. While Diddy built relationships, 50 built leverage. While others chased approval, 50 chased control of the narrative. And that difference matters, because in hip-hop, narrative is everything. From the very beginning of his career, 50 came in swinging. His early music didn't just introduce him, it challenged the entire industry. He didn't ask for permission, he didn't show reverence, he named names: Jay-Z, J. Rule, DMX, Nas, and yes, Diddy. That approach alone made him dangerous, because powerful people don't fear loud enemies, they fear unpredictable ones. And for a long time, the tension between 50 and Diddy stayed in that gray area. Half jokes, half shade, little comments that could be dismissed as humor if you wanted to stay comfortable. But here's the thing about 50. His jokes stick. They repeat, they evolve, and eventually they become how the audience talks about you. That's how culture works now. One phrase becomes a meme becomes an identity, and once the crowd assigns you an identity, you don't get to edit it anymore. As years passed, the industry changed. Social media became the courtroom. Instagram captions became evidence. Old clips resurfaced. Old rumors found new audiences. And slowly, the public mood around Diddy began to shift. Stories circulated, lawsuits were filed, allegations were reported. Again, allegations, not convictions, but perception started cracking. And perception is fragile. When that crack appears, people start connecting dots they never questioned before. Suddenly, past behavior looks different. Old jokes feel darker, old beef feels prophetic, and that's when people notice something chilling. 50 Cent didn't look surprised, he looked ready. Because when controversy surrounded Diddy, 50 didn't rush in immediately. He waited. He posted sparingly. He let the internet do what it does best: speculate, argue, amplify. Then he stepped in at just the right moments, poking, joking, framing the narrative without ever needing to fully explain himself. That's the genius and the danger. You don't have to prove everything when the audience is already suspicious. You just have to point. And once the finger points, the mob takes over. Names started resurfacing in conversations again. Biggie Smalls, Tupac Shakur, Suge Knight, Mace, Shine. People revisited old industry stories, old conflicts, old tragedies. Nothing new was proven, but everything felt heavier. The past didn't change, but the lens did, and that's what makes this story feel less like gossip and more like a slow burn thriller. Because it wasn't one diss track, it wasn't one lawsuit. It was years of tension, years of whispers, years of jokes that landed harder as time went on. By the time public controversy exploded into mainstream headlines, the stage was already set. And 50? He didn't need to introduce a new storyline. He simply reminded the audience that he'd been saying something's off for a very long time. And once the crowd believes that, the collapse becomes inevitable. Here's where things stop feeling funny, because there's a difference between trolling and pressure. And what 50 Cent does best is turn humor into pressure, the kind that doesn't leave bruises, but leaves doubt. And doubt is deadly to powerful people. As legal battles and allegations involving Diddy became more public, something shifted across the industry. Silence replaced praise. Distance replaced loyalty. People who once defended suddenly said nothing. And silence, in moments like these, is louder than any diss track. That's when 50 escalated. Not with music, but with optics. He didn't argue facts. He didn't debate lawsuits. He let captions, jokes, and timing do the work. Every post felt like a reminder. I warned you. And whether you agree with him or not, the audience felt it. Because people love the idea of someone being ahead of the truth. This wasn't just about Diddy anymore. It became about the system that protected him, the industry that stayed quiet, the people who benefited from the empire. And 50 positioned himself as the outsider who never needed that protection. Meanwhile, other names stayed relevant in the background. Jay-Z's name popped up in conversations about power. Kanye West's rants reminded people how quickly the industry turns on its own. Suge Knight's past loomed as a reminder of how ugly power struggles can get. Even figures like Russell Simmons became part of broader conversations about accountability and legacy. This wasn't one man falling, it was a moment where people questioned the entire era. And 50? He knew exactly how to keep the spotlight hot. Every time the internet tried to move on, he'd reignite it with one post, one line, one laugh emoji. And suddenly, everyone was talking again. News outlets reacted, blogs reposted, fans debated, and Diddy's name never left the timeline. That's not accidental. Because once a reputation enters questioned status, every new detail feels like confirmation, even when it isn't. That's how public downfalls accelerate. Not through truth alone, but through momentum. And momentum is hard to stop. As things turned more personal, including reported disputes involving Daphne Joy, custody battles, and public filings, the feud crossed a line. This wasn't business. This wasn't branding. This was family, pride, and legacy. And when family gets involved, there's no clean PR recovery. 50 didn't frame himself as the villain. He framed himself as the guy who doesn't lie, just jokes. And jokes in internet culture are often deadlier than accusations, because you can deny allegations, you can fight lawsuits, but you can't sue a meme. By now, the audience wasn't asking if Diddy's image would recover. They were asking how much damage was already permanent. And the craziest part? 50 never claimed to be the hero. He never claimed moral superiority. He simply positioned himself as the witness who never forgot. And history favors witnesses who were early. By the time the dust began to settle, one thing became painfully clear. This was never just about music, jokes, or old grudges. This was about legacy. Because in hip-hop, your legacy is the one thing you can't rewrite once the crowd decides who you are. And when the public turns, it doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait for verdicts. It moves on instinct. For years, Sean Diddy Combs lived in a space few people ever reach, untouchable status. The kind of status where controversy rolls off your back, where whispers get buried by success, where money and influence act like armor. He survived eras that swallowed others whole, from the deaths of Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls, to the fall of Death Row Records, to the collapse of rivals like Suge Knight. Diddy always emerged standing, richer, louder, more confident. That survival built a myth, and myths are powerful until they aren't. Because myths depend on belief, and belief depends on trust. Once trust cracks, everything changes. As allegations and lawsuits were reported publicly, the conversation stopped being about one incident or one claim. It became about patterns, about behavior, about power dynamics, about the way the industry has historically protected certain figures while destroying others. People started asking uncomfortable questions, not just about Diddy, but about the entire ecosystem around him: executives, artists, producers, gatekeepers. Why did so many people stay quiet for so long? And that's when the silence became suspicious. Jay-Z's name came up, not because of accusations, but because of influence. When someone with that much power says nothing, the absence is noticeable. Kanye West's past outbursts were revisited, not for their accuracy, but for how often the industry dismissed uncomfortable truths when they came from unstable messengers. Russell Simmons' controversies resurfaced as another example of how fame can delay accountability. Even Clive Davis, Andre Harrell, and Liar Cohen were dragged into conversations about how deeply embedded power structures really are. This wasn't about guilt, it was about unchecked authority. And in moments like that, the public starts searching for someone who never bowed to that authority. That's where 50 Cent's image hardened into something dangerous. Because unlike many artists, 50 never depended on industry approval to survive. He built his career on conflict, endurance, and public dominance. He didn't need invitations. He didn't need favors. He didn't need protection. That independence made him immune to the usual pressure tactics, and it made his voice louder when everyone else went quiet. While others distanced themselves silently, 50 leaned into the moment, not with long statements, not with detailed accusations, but with timing. Every time the internet threatened to move on, he reminded it why it shouldn't. A post, a caption, a joke that felt reckless on the surface but surgical underneath. And the brilliance or cruelty of that strategy is that it forced people to keep talking, because once people talk long enough, they start believing. At this point, Diddy's image wasn't just damaged, it was unstable. Every appearance felt tense, every statement felt rehearsed, every denial felt defensive, even when it wasn't. That's what happens when narrative turns against you. You stop controlling how you're seen, and no amount of money fixes that. Meanwhile, the generational shift made things worse. Younger audiences didn't grow up worshiping the bad boy era. They didn't feel loyalty to past myths. They consume stories fast, judge faster, and move on without nostalgia. To them, Diddy wasn't a legend, he was a trending topic. And trending topics are disposable. As long-form documentaries, exposés, and deep dives began circulating, the final blow wasn't any single revelation. It was context. Decades of footage, quotes, relationships, and contradictions laid out in sequence. When viewed separately, none of it seemed definitive. When viewed together, it painted a picture people couldn't unsee. That's how reputations collapse, not with proof alone, but with plausibility. Once something feels plausible enough, belief follows. And in the middle of that collapse, 50 Cent stood untouched, watching, commenting just enough to stay visible, but never enough to take responsibility for the fire. Because he didn't light the match, he just kept the oxygen flowing. That's what makes this moment different from past beefs. This wasn't loud aggression, it was quiet positioning. And quiet positioning lasts longer. The scariest part for any powerful figure isn't being accused, it's being abandoned. Because when the crowd leaves, there's no echo chamber left. No applause to drown out the doubt, no allies willing to speak publicly, just isolation. And isolation is the true end of power. This is why people keep saying the same thing online. 50 Cent is not someone you want as an enemy, not because he's violent, not because he's loud, but because he never forgets and he never rushes. He lets time expose what anger never could. Whether Sean Diddy Combs ever clears his name legally or not, culturally, the shift has already happened. His legacy will forever be debated, reanalyzed, questioned. The shine that once felt permanent now feels conditional, and that's irreversible. Hip-hop remembers survival stories, but it also remembers cautionary tales. This entire saga is a reminder that power without accountability eventually attracts scrutiny, that silence can turn into suspicion, that jokes can become weapons, and that the internet, once it turns, does not forgive easily. 50 Cent didn't win this battle with music, he won it with patience. And patience is the most dangerous weapon of all. If you made it this far, like this video, share it, and subscribe to my channel, I Love Gossip. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think this was long overdue exposure, or did things go too far? Either way, this story isn't done, and neither is the reckoning.